Okay, it's good to see you. We're getting ready to get started here, and we're really excited.
Welcome, Manahu, in the local language here. Mono, Manahu is hello. A little bit about myself, real quick. Um, my mom's Jewish. My dad is California Indian. So I have a unique perspective on life, I guess. I have a sister who converted to Islam on my stepfather's side. So at the holidays, we have Christians, Muslims, and Indians. We just don't talk about religion, and we're fine. But he saw. So all the Maidus, the Miwoks, and the Monos, we all intermarried and came to different ceremonies together. So even though my lineage is through the Maidu, I'm actually part of Haslett Basin Hokomomono, which is here above Pine Flat. I go to their ceremonies, their services. I'm part of their tribe. And for us, you can be parts of there are no full-blooded Indians anymore. There may be Indians, and I'll use the terms interchangeably. It doesn't hurt my feelings. Native Americans, American Indians, I'm good. I will touch on the word redskin, which I do find offensive, as is the word squaw. But a little bit, like I said, so if I use different terms and I go back and forth, in academia, everyone likes indigenous. But through my father's people, so I am Machupta Maidu by lineal descent. However, I have been adopted into the Hokomomono people, so now I consider them my family. And part of that's because even though I was born back east on the Quonset Naval Base, Warwick, Rhode Island, my dad was in Vietnam. I was raised 40 years here in Central California. So I was really raised away from my aunties and from my people and more with the people here. I do speak a little of my language. I can sing songs in my language. I can sing songs in Modo, in Miwok, in Chumash, kind of a hodgepodge. A lot about natives, we don't really assimilate too well. We acculturate, and I'll touch on that. Assimilation is kind of like the Borg. Everyone remembers Star Trek? 7 of 9. That's assimilation. Acculturation is where you take something that you like and you bring it into what you are, but you don't give up everything that you are. So like the Plains Indians, they were not horse people. The horses were not indigenous to the Americas. It came over with the Spaniards. They liked it. Oh, we're going to take that. And they became the horse culture of the plains. That's acculturation. They didn't give up everything that they were and just become Spaniards. They took what they liked and incorporated into them. Our spirituality is a little the same. A little bit about our spirituality. Just like with Christianity, you have different sections of Christianity. As you say, you have Baptist, you Protestant, non-denominational. You can go on. It's the same with Native spirituality. You can't really just pigeonhole us into say all natives are the same spirituality. So I'm only going to speak to my spirituality and what I have learned. I will touch on some other spiritualities, but again, those aren't my ways, so I'm aware of them, but I can't speak too much upon them. We are monotheistic. Okay? We believe in one God, the Creator. A lot of people think that, like Disney, don't watch Disney, it'll rot your brain. It's a lot of what they teach is incorrect. Like I said, we're monotheistic. We believe in one God, one Creator. There is actually stories of the Star Child, which is Jesus, within some Native communities. And there are songs to the Star Child, and there are different tribes and nations that believe more so than others in the Star Child. So it's kind of unique stepping back and seeing it and looking at religion in a whole and seeing some of the commonalities within it. Like I said, we're monotheistic. I believe there's only one God, Creator. We may call him, in my language, it's Puksaki, which means the Creator, the one and only. In other languages, they may call him Grandfather, the Great Spirit. It's all one and the same. Now, we do have a little different belief as far as we're not very linear in our spirituality, where, like on the Jewish side, I think it's year 4634 or something like that for the Hebrews. Our timeline isn't linear. We're very secular. So everything's in cycles. So we don't really count the years too much. If you ever see a clock, or not even a clock, a timepiece would be a winter count on a typically a buffalo hide, and it's circular. It'll spiral, and it'll spiral in, and it'll just denote a certain event that happened that year, and that's how they count it back. They don't really say BC or AD. There's no Anno Domini. It's just this happened 40 winters ago, and they count back. Like I said, a little bit with what I've learned in my people. I'm very traditional. I am what's called a wingman within my people, and and my son is a bear dancer. So within that, we have two ceremonies twice a year. We have which we just had in March. We had the waking of the bears, and then in October we'll put the bears down, which is again spring and then winter. So the spring is typically our new year. We don't follow a Gregorian calendar with January 1st being the new year. It's more of spring being the new year. When the birth coincides right around Easter as well, and the rebirth of Christ. So all of ours is very, very secular. We tend to not look at things and worry too much about the timeline of events. It's more about looking into the future and making sure everything follows through, and you follow the cycle of life. Within our spirituality, we don't really look at man being at the top of a pyramid. We're, again, in a circle, and we're all interconnected. And science has proven this. If you take out one keystone animal out of the ecology, the whole ecology goes haywire. That's how our spirituality is tied into. We don't really go. There are certain days that we have certain ceremonies, but we don't have, like the Sabbath. There's not a certain day. We can hold a ceremony anytime we want. We can, and just like with church, I mean, whenever you guys congregate, you could congregate at any day. Typically, a lot of people do it on Sunday. But with us, it doesn't matter. The day doesn't matter. We'll hold sweat lodge ceremonies, which is where we go, and it can be a purification ceremony. It's where we go to get closer to God and to ask the Creator for prayers for different things. We may need healing. A lot of things can happen in a sweat lodge. During the ceremonies, like I said, everything is circular with us. So when we come into a sweat lodge, we always enter. We ask for permission to come in, and then we'll enter in clockwise. And then wherever you sit, you'll face the center, and then when you leave, you finish the circle. So the circular nature of things gets carried through all of our spirituality. I don't like to say religion, because our spirituality is tied into everything. It's tied into our food. You have the story, which is really nice, Gene put up here, the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, which have been planted this way for thousands of years, because the corn grows up, the beans go around the corn, and then the squash is on the ground, and all three work together to provide nutrients and keep away the pests for each other. Science later named this the nitrogen cycle, but it's been going on for thousands of years. The story, I don't know if you're familiar with the story of the three sisters, and I'll try to recall it as best I can. Again, this is not the story of my people, but from what I've heard, three sisters of a tribe basically offered themselves up to the Creator, and the Creator transformed them into the three items here to provide for their people. And that's why this is a very sacred item to a lot of the Iroquois Nation people, some of the Plains people as well. I know I have some friends who are Dene, and they have a green corn ceremony, which is a coming of age ceremony that they have for the women, when the young ladies, when they become women. And it like I said, everything gets tied into our spirituality. It is not, you cannot compartmentalize our spirituality as for what I've learned. Like I said, it ties into our food, it ties into the animals, it ties into the land. That was the major problem with the conquest of the Americas, is unlike some religions where you could just build a building and worship there, be it whatever religion, I'm just making generalities. Ours are tied into certain areas of the landscape. That's why when Mount Rushmore was put in, it devastated the people because it desecrated the sacred mountain. And they said, well, you can go worship over here. Well, no, we can't, because we're tied to the land. It's not, our spirituality is tied to the land, and you'll hear Mother Earth. The earth is an ecosystem, it's alive. We make sure that if we're going to eat an animal, when we do something, we say a prayer and thank the animal for giving up its life to nourish us, that it did not die in vain. We use certain items during our ceremonies. Like I have 2 hawk wings that I use during ceremony. I didn't go out and hunt the hawk just so I could get the wings. As I was driving, a hawk was killed on the side of the road out in the Madera Ranchos, gets hit by cars. I went over there, took some tobacco, said a prayer, thanked the animal, said, you know, it didn't die in vain, and then it'll continue on. Buried what I didn't need, and took the wings, and we use them in ceremony. So a lot of it, like I said, looking at different spiritualities and looking at our spirituality, we're not so much, a lot of people, oh, you worship animals. No, it's more of we respect the animal and consider it an equal. Not that we domesticated any animal, we're above any animal. We feel we are just the same with all the animals on the earth. I think that's a big key point within our spirituality and how it ties in together. Because now I have to say that movie Brother Bear was pretty good. They did a really good job on that one. They didn't mess up on too many spots. They got the spirituality down for the most part. If you watch that movie Brother Bear, on how all the animals are interconnected and you have to respect all the animals, and that doesn't mean go up and hug a bear because it will maul you, but just be aware that the bear has a purpose. For us, bears are sacred. They are one of the apex predators on Earth, and then the eagle is sacred because it is the apex predator in the air. On a side note, the golden eagle is more revered than the bald eagle. The bald eagle is actually considered lazy. There are stories about that, and coyote stories and different stories that go that. Coyote stories are part of our spirituality as well, but part of cultural norms to teach kids what to do and what not to do. Some coyote stories are very graphic, but they serve a purpose for what they're being told. The coyote is considered a trickster. In some cultures, he's considered bad, and in others, it's neither. He's just what he is, a trickster. But what I do and what I've been taught is to look at everything in a whole, and not the spirituality that I've been taught by my uncles and my ancestors, Uncle Ron, Martin, Kea, who passed away, from the Chachi Yokuts and all my cousins, is to look at everybody as one. You'll hear a lot of times, you'll hear us call each other brother. Well, we are all related. I tell people, I get really frustrated in academia when they ask on a piece of paper, what race are you? So I put human. They go, no, what race are you? I told you what I am, I'm human. You want to know my ethnicity? Ask me my ethnicity. But my belief in my spirituality I've been taught is there's only one race of man on earth, human. There are different ethnicities, different areas that have been segregated for a certain amount of time, and different languages have developed, but we're all one. You know, we're all one under God. I get some of what the teachings that I've been taught and the teachings of the elders. Unfortunately, if we don't keep involved, especially with us, like I said, I can sing. I'm not fluent in my language, and this is a tattoo. This is a prayer. I know my grandmother before she passed said, "Oi, Vay, you've got a tattoo. You can't be buried." Grandma, I understand, but this is a prayer in my language, in Machupta Maidu, which is Puksake pi'in niiki tuejke jani kukes, which means, Creator, hear my prayers, grant me wisdom. And again, asking God, it's the one thing I ask my kids to only ask God for, wisdom. Don't worry about anything else. Happiness, money, wisdom. Wisdom will find you all the other things, or at least show you what you really need. Money is not all that it's cracked up to be. Again, with some of our songs, everything is kind of tied into everything. I'll go through a couple of our songs. One of the songs that we have is the Red-tailed Hawk song, which is actually a Chumash song. And it's a song that I like to sing in sweat. We have Bigfoot songs, bear dance, Bigfoot's real. You kids, Bigfoot's real. The Bigfoot song, Chumash welcoming songs, Mono songs. There's so many good songs, and when we sing, we're also praying, because as we sing, we're singing to the Creator. Like I said, a little bit. So I'm going to sing one of our songs, and I'll translate as to what it is too. So the Red-tailed Hawk song goes like this, and typically I'll have a clap stick, which is a long elderberry split, and you clap it. California, we didn't have drums. Drums is a Plains Indians and Eastern Indians invention. We would have sticks or big logs and a hollowed out log, and we would pound straight down, and that would resonate, or we'd have a clap stick. But now, acculturation, we like hand drums. Go to powwows, you see the hand drums. But the song goes like this. Tassin hele, hoku te kale. Tassin hele, hoku te kale. Taka pa wachi look, a chokon wachu, a chokon wachu. Yawa, yawa, kiwa nawa, yawa, yawa, kiwa nawa. Tassin hele, hoku te kale. That'll typically be sung 4 times. 4 is a very sacred number with us. 4 directions, 4, as we call it, the colors of man, the 4 seasons. 4 is embedded in our culture. Basically what that is 2 brothers are sitting up on a mountain, kind of up on a hill, and they're watching these red-tailed hawks fly. And the one brother's like, watch the hawk. And they're riding the thermals. Tassin hele, hoku te kale. Just cruising around. And as they start dipping down, and then all of a sudden they get out of the thermal and they have to fly. Yawa, yawa, kiwa nawa, yawa, yawa, kiwa nawa. Talk about that. He's got to start flapping his wings to get back in that thermal and going around. A lot of times that song will be sung in ceremonies, especially sweat lodges. And I sing that song when I ask for special prayers. I am Eagle Clan, so that is kind of like, that's our moiety. It's our spiritual animal that we are tied to, that we consider ourselves even closer relationship to. So because of that, I'm not allowed to eat any bird that flies. Now, turkeys and chickens, they're fair game, pardon the pun. They don't fly anymore. They just run around the ground. But I don't eat duck or goose or any other bird that flies. I have friends that are deer clan. They don't eat deer. The bears don't eat bears. We in California don't eat bears, number one. But the different clans represent different things. Turtle clan, eagle clan, bear clan, deer, elk. I mean, there's just literally probably 30 or 40 different clans. And the clans symbolize different things and different animals. A lot of times, like with our spirituality, you'll see us with tobacco. We've had tobacco for thousands of years. We didn't smoke. It's not like cigarettes. Back then, it wasn't used for that. It was ceremonial purposes only. So we'll take the tobacco, and you'll see, if you ever get a chance to go to a ceremony, powwows are commercialized. I go to powwows to buy a new hat and say hi to people. They're not very... In California, they're not traditional. We had big times and fandangos. Again, that's acculturation. The powwows come from the East Coast. But when we go to ceremonies, one of the ways that we'll commune with God or ask God for a prayer is we'll take some tobacco and we'll go up to the fire that's going and we'll say a prayer, and we'll hold the tobacco in our hand and we'll say the prayer, and then we'll throw the tobacco into the fire. And then when the tobacco burns and the smoke goes up to God and gives him our prayer, and that's how he hears our prayer. That's one way that we do that. Going into the sweat lodge ceremony, and a lot of times, like I said, it's a purification ceremony. It's also where we go and ask for prayers for healing. A little bit about the inipi ceremony or sweat lodge is the first round, for the way that I do it and the way I've been taught here. A lot of different places, like I said, are is that a little better? Are a different. It's been a while since I've had one of these. Are a little bit different, but basically the first round we go in and we pray for ourselves, because if you're not right, according to what I've been taught, you can't help anybody else get right. So the first round is for you. Second round is for friends and family. If you have somebody that's sick or injured, needs special prayers, then you pray for them during the second round. Rounds last typically 4 songs, 4 rounds. See the numbers? The 4 comes up all the time. Third round is for the women, the life givers, because without them, we wouldn't be here. So we have a special round, and there are special songs only for the women. Fourth round is kind of a catch-all. You can keep praying for the women or go back to yourself or whatever you need during the ceremony. And that's the sweat lodge ceremony or inipi ceremony, part of our spirituality that we use. Another part of our spirituality is a vision quest. I go up and fast on the mountain above Pine Flat for where the Hokumomono people are, and I fast on that mountain. 4 days, no food, no water. So we'll go into the sweat lodge ceremony, get purified, come out, have a little meal, and then we go up and fast on the mountain. I'll already have built a little tiny lodge about that tall, just long enough for me to get in with a sleeping bag, a pillow, and my drum, clapstick, some tobacco ties, sage, and that's it. You rough it. And all you do is sit and pray. I'll go ahead and the first time I did it, I did not get a vision. Sometimes you get one, sometimes you don't. The second time, I did get a vision. It was quite interesting, and I'll share this because I've shared it before. When I went in for my second fasting, as I laid there, it was hot. It was October, but it was about 3 years ago, and it was hot. When you go into your lodge, for us, you cannot leave 3 feet around it. You're not allowed to come out and talk to the other fasters. You're not allowed to, hey, what's going on over there? No, you're there for a purpose. You're there to center yourself and commune with the Creator. So while I was doing that, it was very hot, and I remember sitting there, and all of a sudden I heard heavy raindrops hitting. Well, nobody said I can't go outside in the rain. I just can't go past 3 feet. I went out there and laid down in the rain and enjoyed this just a heavy rain that sometimes we'll get here with the big, thick drops. Later that night, the elders came up because in the morning, at night when they put you in, they put you in and they close your lodge. You're not allowed to come out. If you come out, you have to go down the hill. You're done. It's ended. So you wait for them to open it up in the morning, which they did, and while they left, the rain came sometime around 1 or 2, I believe. And when they came up to put me in, they said, how do you feel? They check you out, make sure you're not on the verge of death, because that's not the whole point. And I said, no, I'm fine. I said, that rain was great. What rain? I said, I don't know, a couple hours ago. No, there wasn't any rain. I said, yeah, huge drops. They said, about what time was that? I said, oh, about 2-3 hours ago, I guess. I said, that's interesting. That was the same time we took your kids up to Dinky to get in the water. And as they were splashing around there and throwing water in there, they said, wouldn't it be nice if Dad could enjoy this? Quite interesting, because I will sit here and tell you, it rained. I felt it. I know what rain is. It was rain. However, everyone else said it did not rain. I fasted on that mountain 4 times. I have 3 more fasts to go, and my 7-year commitment is done. I can fast after that if I'd like, but I committed for 7 years. So as part of my spiritual journey, I'm going to do that. Going into a little bit about the sweat lodge ceremony. Has anybody seen the sweat lodge ceremony? A couple of people have seen some of Nipi ceremonies, and they're a little bit different here and there, but generally there's a fire, there's an altar or a mound of dirt, could be a staff, and then there's the lodge. I always tell everybody I've worked my way up. My Indian name used to be cuts the wood, builds the fire. Now I'm actually up to I've actually run sweats for my own family. Because I fasted on the mountain, the elders have allowed me to run sweats for my family. I'm not at the point yet where I can run sweats for anybody, but I am at the point where I can run my own sweats from my own family, which I have done. And there's a progression. And a lot of it, and the first time I was asked to do that, I was kind of taken aback. And I asked my uncle, I said, well, wait, I'm not ready. And he goes, how long have you been doing this? Oh, no, been coming up here for 15 plus years. Are you paying attention? Yeah. Well, then you know what to do. I said, but I didn't ask to do this. He said, that's why you're getting to do it. He says, unlike other people that want the attention, that want it, oh, I want to be sweat leader, I want to be this, I want to be a wingman. I never asked. I was told it's your time to be a wingman. I was told it's your time to start pouring water. For us, that's just part of our spirituality. Do I feel like I am better than anybody else? No, by no means. When we go up to ceremony, even though I sit on the board and I am a wingman and I can pour water, at the end of ceremony, I'm out there with my kids picking up trash like everybody else. We're all equal under God, under the Creator. And the way I've been taught is you don't sit there and hold yourself above somebody else. You can help other people, but we're all equal. Like I said, there's only one race on earth, the human race. Uncle Ron has taught us that our symbol for Haslett Basin is the 4 directions and then the 4 colors, red, yellow, white, and black, and then blue circling it. Uncle Ron is very, very down to earth, and he told, so there were some people one time that were there and like, oh, we got a lot of white people up here at the ceremony. What are all these white people doing up here? And Uncle Ron said, hey, if that's the way you are, take down the colors. Don't be a hypocrite. If that's the way you want to act and that's the way you believe, that's your belief. You can leave and take down your colors, because the colors here are all the colors of man, and they all come together. And that's my spirituality, the way I've been taught. Like I said, and it ties into a lot of what I believe, and now what science is proving. It's kind of funny. The Inuits just recently told NASA that the Earth's axis shifted. NASA checked it out. This is the last couple months because of the earthquake in Japan. The last earthquake in Japan shifted the Japanese coast 8 feet, which knocked the Earth off its axis just slightly. And the Inuits were able to tell because the sun did not rise at the exact spot where it was supposed to. They told NASA, NASA checked it out, they were right. So a lot of our beliefs and our mantras are woven in through our lives and woven in through all of man, actually. Like I said, we don't hold ourselves to a higher echelon above other people. I mean, my wife fourth-generation American from Norway. She can actually trace her ancestry back to 1240 AD when Christianity came into that region. She is a Sami descendant, which are the reindeer herders of the Norwegian area. Obviously, and from what I've been taught, you accept all peoples. That's my spirituality, the way I've been taught. There are other Indians, there are other tribes that are a little more cliquish and standoffish and don't want any contact and get really upset when other people come. But the Creator's there for everybody, and that's why I've been taught. So everybody should be able to access the Creator. Well, that's a little bit of my spirituality as I know it. Now here's a chance for you to ask an Indian. So as I call it, it's what I've done in class. If you have a question, all I ask is ask it in a good way. Again, and let me touch on Redskins. For me is offensive because it refers to a dead scalped Indian, and that's one of the arguments for the Redskin. And then the word squaw is a very obscene word in our language, so we don't say that. You never call an Indian woman that. A fight will happen. Other than that, anybody have any questions? I mean, anything. Yes, sir. Yes, there has. In several states right now, it's going through the legislature to actually get that name. I know Chowchilla is the Redskins. Tulare Union or Tulare Western is the Redskins. I went to Fresno High. We're the Warriors. So I don't have a problem if, like with the Warriors, a friend of mine was our mascot. He was native. I have no problem with him dressing up, playing himself. He's Indian. He can play Indian, as you call it. I do find that word offensive. Just like with anything, if they want to use it, they should, like with Sanger, if they want to be the Apaches, they should go and talk to one of the Apache Nation. And this is just my belief, and ask for permission. It'd be like someone using your last name for something that they want to do, and you have no control over how they use it. It can get sticky. Some of the terminology, Chief Wahoo, I know in baseball, the Indians are the big smiling Indian. I mean, I remember here, I was born in '69, I remember Sambos in Fresno. Woo! Look at that now and think, how racist was that? Even some of the cartoons we watched back in the day, Tom and Jerry, and I mean, a lot of them were just, you look back at them and it's just like, wow. They're really racist. But I think that I would like to see them change their names. They can keep a native motif if they like. They could Tulare Western Yokuts. I'm sure if Tulare Western went to the Yokuts Nation and asked them permission to use their name and their likeness in a good way, that the Yokuts people would do it. So they could just tweak it a little bit. They don't have to give up being with all the native. They could just tweak it to that. Same with Chowchilla. Chowchilla is actually named after a Yokuts tribe. Yokuts is a general, it's like saying you live in Fresno. You know, Fresno's huge. You might live in Old Fig Garden in Fresno. Well, Chowchilla was actually the name of a tribe of the Yokuts, a very fierce tribe. So them using that term for that, they could change it again to chieftains or something like that. And if they did that, I would suggest if they wanted to avoid any future clashes, to just come in a good way and ask the local tribes if they could do that. And that would solve everything. I mean, you don't see the fighting Jews. I mean, and I'll say that my mom's people are Jewish. My Hebrew name is Baruch Yaakov Abram Ben Abrim. I have a Hebrew name through my mom's people, and my native name is Waso Yepe, which means angry man. So I have close ties to both sides. I acknowledge both sides of who I am. But you don't see certain nationalities being trivialized that way. So I would hope that if they did that, they could change it to the chieftains or something else, and then just ask the local tribe their permission. And like Florida State, the Seminoles, they asked the Seminole Nation for permission. Said, we will only do it respectfully. We will make sure that we follow whatever guidelines you set forth, and they did. And there is no trouble whatever with their mascot running out on the horse with a flaming spear and throwing it in the center of the football stadium. The Seminole people are proud of it because Florida State went to them and asked their permission first. So if they did something like that, I think it would be, it would go a great way to heal some of the old wounds. Yes, because some of the history that they teach in the schools is quite interesting. My daughter was in 4th grade, and she was California history, and talking about the Indians and their costumes. Costumes denotes fantasy. You could say regalia, or you could say clothing. You wouldn't say a knight is in a costume. You would say that's what that person wore when he did. And of course, my daughter is now 13, so this was 4 years ago, 2011, and the textbook was last copyright in 1968. So academia has a long way to go. It would be nice for us to write our own history books, or at least have some input into the history books. That would be great. Like I said, like with Pocahontas and the whole Disney story, she was 11, 12 at the time. John Smith in his 20s. So that wouldn't fly nowadays. So, like I said, some of the stuff I'd like them to at least ask. It's quite interesting, like Dances with Wolves, great story. Kevin Costner and all the native actors that were involved in that. But the big joke is they were speaking the female version of the language and not the male version of the language. So, and then some of the things, if they would just ask, Tonto and the Lone Ranger, that's another favorite story of mine. In Spanish, tonto means stupid. So Kimosabi, from what I've been told, is and pardon the term, but it's called a bastardization. Basically, it's like the telephone game where a word kind of gets pushed along, like Cherokee. That's not the traditional name, it's Salagi. But the people that first came couldn't say Salagi, so they said Cherokee. So it's kind of like the telephone game. Kimosabi is a little bit with that. In Spanish, no sabe, don't know. Kimosabi means he who doesn't know. So throughout the whole series, they're running around. Hey, stupid, what's stupid? Hey, come here, stupid, let me show you this. Come here, stupid. They're calling each other stupid through the whole thing. So knowing what's going on sometimes is more funny than actually listening to it or seeing what's going on. I think you got to. Yes. Well, each color to us represents the different ethnicity of man. White, for us, for our ceremony, white faces the north. I believe some of that might be back from Norse mythology, Eric the Red and Leif Erikson in the 1100s. Columbus did not discover America. Didn't even land on the mainland until his third voyage, 1497. In Newfoundland, the Vikings still have a settlement that's there today you can go see. That's predates Columbus 400 years. But the white faces the north, and that's for all the shades of our brothers that are lighter skinned. Yellow is for our brothers and sisters from the east. So yellow faces the east on our color circle. Then we have red faces the west, and then black faces the south. And that's how our color wheel goes. And then the color of Haslett Basin is blue, so it surrounds all of us. So for our spirituality, on our symbol on Haslett Basin, it's basically a circle, and it has the white, the yellow, the black, and the red. and it symbolizes the four shades of man on earth. Anybody else? Come on, it's the only one of the few chances you can ask an Indian. Yes. I don't have a problem with that. It's a generic term. It's a chief. Now, if they're going to run around with war bonnets on, I have a problem with that, because even I'm not allowed to wear a war bonnet. And again, if they would go to the local tribal nation and ask their permission, that would squash anything. Dan Snyder, a little misguided on what he's thinking with the Washington team. But yeah, the term, I mean, if you call someone a savage, you know, the Norsemen were considered savages. The Gauls, I mean, to the Greeks and Romans, everybody was a savage back then. So the term savage can be applied everywhere. Unfortunately, a lot of times it gets applied with the natives. But chief, I don't have a problem with, as long as they would go and ask respectfully permission to do so. I think that would quell a lot of problems. But the term redskin, like I said, we find offensive. Squaw Valley, Squaw Leap. A lot of times, like I said, they just don't realize what the word means. Fresno High Warriors, I didn't have a problem with that. Like I said, they were, every time we did it, very respectful. Some of the things, unfortunately, that happens when these teams get together and you start hanging effigies of other teams, then it can get a little touchy. But if they would start doing things in a good way, that would be one step. And that's the way I've been taught. You come in a good way. You try to do everything in a good way. Then you never have to apologize for what you've done. You do it in a good way. Or at least you try to do it in a good way. Yes? Oh, yeah, cradle boards. You'll see a lot of different cradle boards. I can't make a cradle board. I can make a basket. I know how to make baskets. But the cradle boards are still done where they'll put them in the cradle board and they'll strap them down and they'll put them on their back or they'll carry them around. And it's kind of like swaddling. You know, if you fold the baby. I know when my kids were born, you fold their arms up and wrap the blanket tightly. It calms them down. It's the same thing as a cradle board. It kept them in there. A lot of the designs, arrow designs, are for boys. Rainbow or arching designs would be for girls. And different tribes have different designs. It doesn't apply to every tribal nation. There are 566 federally recognized tribes in the United States, 111 in California alone, with another probably close to 300 non-federally recognized. And that's down from probably well over 1,000 or 1,200 that were here pre-1492. So a lot of what I'm saying, like I said, with the spirituality is the way I've learned it, and it's a generality. If you go to different nations, you'll find similarities. But like for us with the sweat lodge, I've been taught you walk all the way around the lodge. Some places they'll let you walk. You can't walk between the fire and the altar, but you can walk through that way. We don't. We go around, but a lot of it you'll find the same, where it's the same circular pattern. Northern California is actually different than Southern California. All the ceremonies up there are counterclockwise, where down here it's clockwise. So when I go up north and I go dance and I go visit my father's people, I have to remember at ceremony, okay, go in this way. Because I'm so used to being down here, going in clockwise. But for the most part, a lot of it's very similar. And again, if you go somewhere, unless you ask permission first, never take pictures, never record. They asked permission here. I said, no problem. It's not a ceremony. I don't have any problem with that. Even at a powwow, they'll allow pictures. If you want a picture with a certain dancer, just go up to them and say, I'd be honored if I could have your picture. 99.99% of the time, they're going to tell you yes. But they like to be asked first. So as long as you ask, but if you ever go to a sweat lodge, you're not supposed to take pictures of ceremonies going on. All the fires lit, no pictures. while our ceremonies, our bear dance is going on. There's no pictures. It's very remote, and for that ceremony, you pretty much have to be invited there. It's way up in the mountains, and if you didn't know where you're going, you wouldn't find it. But a lot of it just goes back to trying to do things in a good way. You know, the golden rule, do unto others as you'd like to be done unto you. I teach my kids that, and that's all you need to do, is if you want to be treated a certain way, then treat everybody that way and expect it back. I don't look at somebody and now the Northern California Indians, we intermarried more with the Russian traders that came down than Southern California with the Spaniards. So a lot of Southern California Indians and Plains Indians will be a lot darker than us. I'm actually very dark as compared to some of the people in my tribe up north. But so a lot of like we didn't have the Spanish missions. My people never encountered the Spanish, at least not to the extent as down south. The Spanish got all the way up to San Francisco and Sonora area, and that's about as high as they went. They didn't get up into the Chico and the foothills further up. But we had a lot of influence with the Russian traders, and so a lot of Northern California Indians will be lighter. So if you ever go up north and people are like, oh, I'm Native, and they're not saying they're Cherokee. Now, Cherokees are one of the largest tribes in the United States. They've been intermarrying with non-natives for over 500 years. Natives, also an interesting point, we intermarry outside of our own ethnicity more than any other ethnicity. Like I am Maidu, so I cannot, and my children cannot marry a Maidu, nor can they marry an Eagle clan of any tribe. So if my daughter finds this nice tall Lakota and she just falls in love with him and he's Eagle clan, we consider him a relative, like a distant cousin. Cannot marry him. Can't marry anybody who's Maidu as well because we're related. So going back to full-blooded, there are a lot of people that can be full-blooded Native, but they're not full-blooded of one tribe. You can't have that. Swimming in the shallow end of the gene pool. You have to get, a wide variety out there. Bring in new peoples, new ideas. That's why the story of Dances with Wolves, where he was adopted into the people, is not far-fetched. That's very traditional. If you were a good person and you contributed, they would bring you in, and you would be part of that people from then on. And they wouldn't. Now, some people might be a little mad at him, but for the most part, traditionally speaking, he would then be part of that tribe. He would be Dakota, Nakota, Aglala, whatever the band is. He would become, or she would become that. So, traditionally speaking, our spiritualities were very inclusive. Unfortunately, nowadays, there's a lot of greed involved in some of the local tribes, which I'm glad my people, my community, the Hokumamono, we don't have a casino. We're never going to get a casino. That's not what we are. That's not what we want. I always tell people education. Education, education, education. That is unless your last name is Rockefeller or any other of Trump, somebody like that, education. Because as natives can tell you, the government can take away your house, your land, your spouse, your kids. They can take away everything you own. They can make you go fight in a war that you don't believe in. But they can't take away your knowledge. At least not yet. Might be working on brainwash, but once you learn something and you earn it, especially for you younger generation, that's your power, is education. So I always joke with people, I'm an educated Indian. I have an associate's degree in American Indian Studies, a bachelor's in criminology, a bachelor's in public administration, a master's in public administration, and I'm working on my master's in federal law, MGIL, for the University of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Education is the way, is for us, I believe, the way of the future to balance so we can keep the old ways, we can keep the traditions, the language alive, the cultures, and still acculturate into modern society. Yes? Oh, it's not on the surface. That's exactly what it is. It's greed, plain and simple, because that is not traditional. Now, if somebody did something wrong, there was a famous case called Crow Dog, where Crow Dog got in a fight with another Brule Sioux, Spotted Tail, killed him. They don't know why. It could have been because Spotted Tail was more pro-United States and Crow Dog was not. So anyways, he killed him. The tribe got together, adjudicated, and gave him the worst punishment ever. They kicked him out. Said, you are no longer Indian. You are no longer Brule Sioux. You are done. And we will no longer say your name. Kind of backfired because it's a famous court case now. But that is the worst thing you can do, and which is the disenrollment, is kicking them out and taking away who they are. And not only are they doing that to living people now, they're doing it to some of the ancestors that are passed and taking them off of the rolls. I have a big problem with that. If someone does something wrong, kick them out of the tribe for doing that, but not because you want a bigger piece of the pie. That's why I'm not very excited about casinos. I don't think it's the cure-all, end-all. I'm more into renewable energy and stuff like that. Do solar panels, let's set up other businesses. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. My cousins, I'm related to the Casillas, the Walkers, the Shermans, the Thomases, the Lewises here locally, by blood or by marriage. And a lot of them sit in the different tribes. I don't like when money is doled out. I wrote a paper at Fresno State, and I called it Casino Indians. And at the time, I based it off of Table Mountain, who was getting roughly $13,000 a month per tribal member. There's only 71 at the time. I said, I don't have a problem with that, but let's tie it to education. You turn 18, we'll give you $500 a month. You turn 18 and graduate high school, we'll give you $1,000. Get your associate's degree, give you $2,000. And tier it up that way to where you get a terminal degree, such as a master's or a doctorate, then you'll get the full amount. Because if something happens, like Chuck Chansey, where it gets shut down, now 4,000 people are without a job, no education, now what? If you just sit around every month, and this is my personal belief, you sit around every month and you wait for that check to come from the casino, how is that any different than welfare? You have not earned it. You're not doing anything with it. I am very happy some of my cousins are investing their money, opening businesses, employing other natives, employing non-natives. That's the way to go. But just sitting around and collecting it, to me, that's wrong. I'm not very happy with that, and I'm not very happy with them kicking people out of the tribal nation just for greed. That is not traditional. Like I said, it's very traditional to be very inclusive, not exclusive. Someone over here had a question? Yes, sir. Yeah, no, I like that when they invest the money into other businesses, because every dollar spent in the community gets spent back 5 times, so that $1 spent at the new business will change hands at an average of 5 different times economically through the community. So that's the way to go. Having a casino, I see the need for it in some places, but I don't think that is the end-all, cure-all. You need to be very careful with that. There are some tribal nations that don't hand out money. They'll give out services, which I like. So instead of waiting for a check, if the elders, they take care, and traditionally speaking, the elders are walking libraries. You take care of the elders. When we go and eat, if you go to a traditional ceremony, the elders eat first. The young kids eat last. They got enough energy, they can wait. The elders eat first, and it goes down by age. You take care of the elders. So what they're doing is all the elders, they're buying them houses, paying their utilities for 40 years, making sure they have food and taking care of the elders. They're not handing them a check where unfortunately, and it happens, a grandkid or a nephew or a niece steals the money and uses it for something else or talks them into buying them a car. I like providing services more than providing checks. Take care of the people, get them what they need, and then whatever retirement they can supplement that. But I think that's the way to go, personally speaking, is I'd like to see some of these tribal nations do more of that. Instead of handing out money, give services. What do you need money for? Oh, I need to get a house. Okay, we built you one. So now you don't need $1,500 a month rent. That's taken care of. Your utilities, taken care of. I'd like to see more of that. I think that would end some of this greed because you're not sitting around waiting for a check. And unfortunately, drug use and alcohol use is just through the roof with us. I'm fortunate. I personally do not like the taste of alcohol, so I got really lucky. We didn't have alcohol here, so especially in California, since we didn't really interact with non-natives until basically the 1800s. Think about it, the East Coast, as far back as 1585 with Roanoke, West Virginia, 1607, Jamestown. For us, it wasn't until the mid-1800s that we saw the first non-native come through here, other than Russian traders along the coast to the interior. Uncle Kea, who passed away, he was a spiritual leader in Lemoore. He told me one time, I was talking to him, and he said, when I was 8 years old, I was talking to my grandfather. My grandfather told me, when I was your age, I saw the first white man come through here. And it was shocking. That was secondhand information. Only 2 people told that story. The grandfather told the grandson told me. That's as close to history as you can get. So a lot of times people don't realize, especially here on the West Coast, a lot of our history is very recent with us. I liken it to, it's kind of funny. Well, it's not really funny. It's ironic. 9/11, never forget, never forget. You should never forget that. That was a horrific event. But then when we try to say, well, look what happened to us, oh, get over it. Well, it's the same thing. People were killed, people were killed. You remember those that passed and try not to make the same mistakes. Look to the past so that the future doesn't repeat. Yes. I would like to see more youngsters learning the language because we have locally, there's one Wukchumni elder that is the last fluent speaker locally. And when she passes, that language will be dead because there are no other fluent speakers. I'm not a fluent speaker. Like I said, I know key words and phrases and songs, and if I hear a song, I can sing it, I pick it up, but I'm not fluent. The languages are dying out at such a huge rate because the kids and the grandkids, once that generation gets skipped where the kids or the grandkids don't want to learn it and the grandparents pass on, which again, like I said, there are walking libraries. It's gone. And when she passes, that language will be gone unless something's done now to document it and to teach it. So for the youth to learn the language. And that goes for anybody. Be proud of your culture and your history and where your people are. If you're, my mom's side of the family are German Jews. My grandfather, meine Opa, is von Deutschland. So ich kann sprechen Sie Deutsch. Ich lerne schon Deutsch von unserer Hochschule. So, be proud of your history and learn different things. A lot of times, people get very upset when they hear other languages being spoken. Oh, they're talking about me. Not necessarily. Sometimes they do, but not necessarily. We have to embrace the differences. And that, with our spirituality, is tied to our traditional core beliefs. They said anybody can be part of a tribal nation. And traditionally, they would bring in anybody. That's why the colonists, when the women colonists, sometimes they were captured on raids and brought back. A lot of times they didn't want to go back to the colonies. Well, number one, they had no right to vote. They couldn't own property. They were chattel, which is where you get the word cattle from. They were property, chattel. They had no rights. As natives, they typically owned, and our ownership of the land is a little different, but basically if there were any property of the house, it belonged to the woman. So in an Iroquois divorce, if a Seneca or Onondaga or Mohawk woman married another person of another tribe, she wanted a divorce, all she had to do was kick his stuff outside of their longhouse, and it was done. Wash day, you're out. Go back to your mom. The kids stayed with her. All the property stayed with her. The women have the power, and that it still is today. I tell people, if you want to irritate an elder, make sure it's a man. You tick off one of the females, you are done. I was at a powwow with my wife, and Hummingbird was there with her mom and her grandmother, and her grandmother was talking. All the women were talking, and I shouldn't have been there, and I should have walked off with the guys. And she asked my wife, "Oh, are you coming back tomorrow?" And I said, "Oh, no, we're not going to come back." She looked at me, she goes, "Was I talking to you?" Oh, I'm out of here. I tell people, if you're going to get in an argument, make sure it's an Indian man. Don't get in an argument with the Indian women. The men were the chiefs of the tribe. The women typically elected them, and the women could remove them. So it's the old, I put the pants on, my wife tells me what color and which ones to wear. Same thing, yeah. So the women are very, very revered. Yes, sir. I haven't watched that in a while, but that's basically part of the Sundance. And I'm not a Sundancer. My people are not Sundancers. That's a different ceremony of the Plains Indians. Paiutes, Shoshones will Sundance. Your people Sundance? No? Yeah, see, it's different. And that's number one, they should never have recorded that. That's another thing where you don't record that ceremony. But it's another way of getting yourself into a state to commune with the Creator. And that's what the Sundance is. Like I said, I've never been to a Sundance. I've only been to one pipe ceremony in my life. I've never been to a Native American church, which is peyote. That's a sacred sacrament. And again, we didn't do recreational drugs. If tobacco was used, it was only used in ceremony. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to go out back and smoke for 5 minutes, come back. No. Same with even peyote, which is technically hallucinogenic. That is only used at certain times in ceremonies, and only in the right way with, you have a roadman that is there, and they guide you. You're not supposed to go watch a scary movie and do peyote, because you will flip out. It will be all bad. You have to get yourself in the right frame of mind. They do it in a certain way. You're praying. So different ceremonies, different people do. The Native American church is that, which is peyote. We follow what's called the Red Road, which is kind of universal. Just means no drugs, no alcohol. The Sundance is typically a Plains Indian, Lakota, Cheyenne, Arapaho, Paiute, Shoshones. They have the Sundances. There are no Sundances in California. They're all Nevada and the outlying states. A good movie to watch. A good book to read is Tonto and the Lone Ranger, Fist Fight in Heaven, which is actually the basis for the movie Smoke Signals. Great movie. You want to understand Native humor? Watch Smoke Signals. It's a great movie. Dance Me Outside's another good movie. Like I said, Brother Bear was a pretty good movie. They got that right. I mean, the spirituality was pretty much dead on. But that's about it, I think.
I can't even pretend that was about it.
Well, there's a lot more, but...
What an honor, though. Yes. Thank you so much for all that you have to share. I just have to ask, is there anything special about this?
This was gifted to me by Uncle Ron, one of the elders at the last time I fasted. So it's just a choker, kind of like just jewelry. This was gifted to me because I have blue eyes and I'm Eagle Clan. So it's a golden eagle with a blue eye. So it symbolizes me, my wedding ring for my wife. We got married, actually, my wife and I got married up at Haslett Basin in our traditional ceremonial grounds. My brother is the one who married us. He's the leader of the clan, of the Bear Clan. And we had a binding ceremony. So we were bound with leather and prayer ties. And then we, again, acculturated. We still had vows. We said vows to each other in front of our congregation, the community. Then we walked around the fire 4 times, and then took off the prayer ties and said a prayer, and then threw them in the fire. So, like I said, there's a lot of, we don't assimilate very well, we acculturate. You'll see natives throughout communities, and they'll still have some of their core beliefs, but you have natives that can be Christian. One of the things that, and I'll share this, I had a problem with Christianity for a long time, especially with what has happened to natives. And it wasn't until Uncle Kea one time at Sweat, and I'll say it, I was bashing Christianity and Christians. They did this, they did that. And he said, have you ever read the Bible? And I said, well, yeah, I've been to church a couple times. He said, go read the Bible. When an elder tells you to do something, you go do it. 3 years later, all right, Uncle, I finished it. Start to finish. I read it. He goes, what don't you like? Oh, the conquistadors came over and the Spaniards and the cat. He goes, was that in the Bible? I was like, well, no. He goes, what didn't you like? He goes, 10 Commandments. Did you have a problem with that? Don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't covet different things. Like, no, didn't have a problem with that. Do you have a problem with any of the stories? No. Because then what you have a problem with is what man has done in the name of religion versus the religion. And that was an epiphany for me at that time. It really was. The light went on, and I was like, wow, here I am. And I think, unfortunately, like with Islam, I think with some of the people that are doing some of the things in the name of their religion, they're way off. Stick to the good stuff, loving each other and doing what's right and not stealing, and don't worry about all this other stuff. But that was, for me, that's why I felt honored that Bernard asked me and to come and speak here and speak from my heart and tell a little bit. It's kind of, I don't know, a little bit of way of the Creator kind of making, all right, remember how you didn't like it? Guess what? Now you're going to go talk. And like I said, I have friends that are Christian. I have friends that are Catholic. I don't really care what ethnicity. I have a friend who's a Buddhist monk. It's just what's in your heart. And that's what matters.
Thank you so much. We are so thankful and so appreciative of you taking time to come and share with us. And let's show them our appreciation. He probably would stick around for another minute or two if you have a couple questions to ask him. And we are very blessed by your presence tonight. I hope that you guys will come back next week. Next week's topic is historic traumas, and that was bound to be an eye-opening and enlightening session. Then our 4th week will be a panel discussion about building bridges. Hopefully, we'll get some good ideas about what we can do to really build up community, build real relationships with our neighbors. So thank you so much for coming tonight, and we'll see you next week. Or at the ball game on Saturday for those going.